They knew, they knew that our relationship with our parents is important in that and our relationship with ancestors, but particularly our relationship with our parents, because we all struggle with what we didn't get. But this relationship with our parents creates a template that forges our later relationships and drives our early traumas really to continue repeating. And many of us are struggling with physical symptoms. A 16-year-old boy came to me with a rare neurological disorder that started when he was 10. He began at 10 years old having these intense burning sensations on his skin. And the doctors, they couldn't figure out what was going on, why this was happening. They couldn't find any root cause. They just, it's a neurological disorder, was the best that people could say. But it was idiopathic, no root cause that they could determine. And when I spoke with his mom, I started fishing in the family history, and I started asking questions about his dad. And she said that his father, when he was 10, was playing with matches and accidentally set the garage on fire and the house burned down. But the father's brother was in the house, and the father's brother died, and the father never forgave himself, which is horrific, just horrific to imagine. But because the trauma, because of the amount of grief and blame, self-hatred, self-loathing, etc., because the trauma remained unhealed and unresolved, which is one of the, I'm a big believer that we've got to do our own work so it doesn't pass forward. But because it remained unhealed and unresolved, the man's son expressed symptoms, the burning sensations on his skin around the same age. And the family had never made this connection. But now after working with the family, the boy's symptoms subsided. And, it's just
Excellent.
just a quick example. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fairly clear. The Chinese culture and some other cultures put a lot of importance on worshiping parents and ancestors, which is not so common in the Western culture. What do you feel influenced the Chinese and others to place so much emphasis on ancestral worship?
They knew, they knew that our relationship with our parents is important in that and our relationship with ancestors, but particularly our relationship with our parents, because we all struggle with what we didn't get. But this relationship with our parents creates a template that forges our later relationships and drives our early traumas really to continue repeating. So I talk about in the book, Hey, to heal, we've got to lose the story we have about our parents. Because I found the more that we reject our parents, the more we suffer. What's unhealed in us continues
Yeah.
to live on inside us. And healing with them, all it means really is that we're in tune with what they could give as well as what they could not give. So we're just in tune with that. My folks could, they could give money, but they weren't very loving, or they were, I get it. We don't become fixated on something we believe that our parents have done to us that has spoiled our lives, because that just keeps us locked into the morass. We know that whatever we reject, whatever we try to push away, continues on inside us on a subterranean level. So when we reject our parents, Paul, we unconsciously reject aspects of ourselves. I mean, we just do. We can't, in other words, when we reject our parents, we disown that behavior in ourselves. What we don't like in them, we can't see when we're the same because we've disowned it in us. So what we reject in them
Yes.
expresses
Shadow.
shadow, exactly. What we reject in them expresses in us unconsciously. That's one way we're affected by
Yes.
rejecting our parents. Another way is we'll pull in a partner who treats us similarly to the way we felt the parent treat us. So if we felt the parent was cold, we pull in a partner who's cold. If the parent was shut down, we pull in a partner who shuts down. Or we pull in a nice partner, but
Mhm.
because we're waiting for them to treat us coldly or to shut down, we almost make them shut down. For example, we look just waiting for them to be unkind or to not hear us, to not see us. And after a while, the partner says, man, this person just doesn't trust me. And then we've
Right.
contributed to this dynamic. The third thing is that we'll treat ourselves, the child part of us, the way we feel the parent treated us. So, for example, when our inner image is that our parents couldn't be gentle with us, we have difficulty being gentle with the child part inside us. Or we'll do to ourselves what we believe the parent did to us. If the parent was critical or aggressive, we become self critical or inwardly aggressive. Or if the parents ignored us or were distant with us,
Right.
we're distant with our inner child. We ignore that child part of us. I talk about this in the book, but I think it's worth saying here, Paul. Um, Harvard, back in the 1950s, asked one question to their students, to these 21-year-old med students. They said, "Hey, tell me about your relationship with your parents. Check a box." It was either warm and close. That was the first box. It was friendly. That's the second box. It was tolerant. That was the third box. Or it was strained and cold. And that was the fourth box. And it was a longitudinal study. They followed these people for 35 years and they looked at them again at age 56. 91% of the people who checked the box, strained, cold, tolerant, with the mother and the father, was similar, but with the mother had a significant health issue. 91% of them had coronary artery disease, diabetes,
Yeah.
um, some cancer, compared with only
Yeah.
45%, Paul, who checked warm, friendly, close. The same numbers, similar numbers with the father, 82 and 50%. It's amazing. And if you'd rejected both your parents, it was
Yeah.
100%. You had a significant health condition. So
Yes.
healing with our parents is not just a good idea. Remaining broken with them could cost us our lives. And so I always ask this question: can we
Yes.
take in their love and care, not as we expected, because of course we want it to be different, but can we take it in as they gave it? At least can we hold it inside of us, hold them inside of us differently? Now that doesn't mean throw yourself in front of a moving train and go back and heal with your parents who are going to hurt you. It doesn't mean that. Sometimes this work has to be done inwardly in our inner images, and it can't be done,
Yes.
and it cannot be done on the
Yeah.
outside. I say this in the book. Reconciliation is mostly an internal movement, but when our parents I call it an
Yeah.
inside job, an inside. But when our parents' behaviors are challenging,
Yes.
it helps to ask what traumas happened to them or behind them that blocked love from going to them and then blocked love from coming to us. What traumas made them behave in a certain way? Because understanding this takes things out of the realm of personal, what's personal. And instead, we begin to understand that
Right.
any parent who experienced this type of trauma or inherited it from their parents would not have much love to give, or they'd be hurtful
Right.
or volatile with their children. To
Right.
simply put, traumatic events block the flow of love. That's it. Traumatic events block the flow of
Yeah.
love. And our parents could have closed their hearts. And then when we close our hearts, we're just continuing the trauma, man. We're just adding another train, another caboose to the train. Um, you know, another way,
Yeah.
another way to say it: hurt people hurt people. I mean, we all know that phrase: hurt people hurt people.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it doesn't excuse what they did, but
Yeah.
it certainly helps to explain. And this understanding can free us to heal those relationships inwardly, or if we're doing a good job inwardly, take the show on the road and do it in person outwardly. And this can be a potent avenue to
Yeah.
healing the brain's stress response that keeps us locked in a state of
Hmm.
suffering.
Yes. So I've got three notes that I wrote down while you were talking because there's things I want to dialogue with you a little bit about. One of the things that I think would help everybody, even it's hard to teach this to children because they're children, but we each have a different love model. And for example, my first son and I, he's 41 now. We've had a hard time because he was born when I just turned 18 2 weeks before he was born. And I had to, my wife's parents and my parents were broke. I had to work my ass off to support him. And I had to, turn myself on full force to carry the weight of being a father at the age of 18. And then I also had to build an identity for myself, which was linked to my family trauma because my real father drowned when I was 8, and my stepfather was extremely brutal, just unbelievably brutal. There was, hospital visits and very nasty things that occurred with enough regularity that my brother ended up committing suicide from the trauma. And my point being is that as a child, you don't really have a knowledge to realize that the way somebody loves you, like your father going off and working really hard, like I was working to love my son, to protect him, because I saw my parents fought over money all the time. Everything seemed to be about money, not everything, but it was a main feature. So my reaction to that was, I'm going to work as hard as I've got to work to make sure that my kid can have the things that I never got and can have the freedoms I never got, and that my wife can have a nice home and some of these things. But the result of that was is I didn't spend a lot of time with him, so he developed a lot of resent. But what I try to tell him is, I was loving you the best I knew how, and I was trying to protect you from being in the environment that I was in, because I saw how money problems can destroy a family. But in his little child heart, he couldn't recognize that. Well, now, just January, him and his girlfriend had a baby. So I got my first grandchild, but I've watched since he's become a father how he's now in exactly the mode that his dad was in, and is only now, for the first time at 41, able to really get it.
Yeah.
But the point I'm driving at is, it seems that if we understood love models and how to see a person's love, because our innate self perception is that if someone's not loving us the way we want to be loved, then we're not being loved. So I'm just curious what your thoughts are on understanding love models as a means of healing, so that we know that how somebody is loving us, so that we can see that the love's actually there and recognize there is love in our life, but maybe it's not exactly what we were hoping for.
Yeah, your love for your child was the greater love, to be able to provide for his mother, for him, so he wouldn't suffer. This is the greater love, but children, they don't see this.
Yeah.
It's almost as though there's something inside of us that needs to push against our parents for individuation or growth or development.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that we lose so much time with our parents until we're in the same boat. And now he at 41, he gets it. As you said, he's a father. He sees how much goes in to having to provide and procure. So yeah,
Yes. Mhm.
I say this again in the book. Look, at least do the work inwardly. If you can't heal with the relationship with your parents outwardly, you might even consider. I often suggest placing a photo of the parent, for the mother over the left shoulder, for the father over the right shoulder, So, a guy broken from his dad
Hmm.
might put over his desk on the right shoulder a photo of his father, and even visualize that, he's got his father's support, even if they don't have this in real life. Or sometimes for a woman, I might suggest putting a photo over your pillow of your mother, over your left shoulder, and asking her at night, Mom, please hold me when I'm sleeping so we can heal this bond. Teach me how to trust your love, how to receive it, how to let it in without taking care of you, Mom, just
Hmm.
receiving.
Yes.
And then to visualize this love coming
Hmm.
into our body energetically, even if we can't do it in real life with our parents energetically, to do it with a photo, because this can be profound, because we need these relationships because they're a template for suffering when they're broken. And the more we allow them, but as you and I are talking
Yeah.
about, as you and I are saying, we waste so much time. People often don't heal with their parents until their parents are 70 or 80, and we've missed all that time in between.
Right.
And so you're
Yes.
preaching to the choir over here, my friend. You're preaching to the choir. Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, I'm not so much trying to preach. I'm just trying to put this on the table to see what your thoughts about it are,
Yeah.
really.
Heal.
Uh,
Let's heal
I
our
mean,
relationship with our parents. Those are my thoughts, plain and simple.